The Kansas City Chiefs are attempting to do something that no team in the history of the NFL has ever done before. They are attempting to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. And quite possibly, the biggest question along the way to this three-peat, should it happen, is can the Kansas City Chiefs replace L'Jarius Sneed? L'Jarius Sneed had one of the best seasons for a cornerback we have seen from the Kansas City Chiefs in a very long time, and quite possibly the best postseason we have ever seen from a Kansas City Chiefs cornerback. Certainly, to the best of my recollection in my lifetime, the best postseason run I have ever seen from a Kansas City Chiefs cornerback. But the Kansas City Chiefs lost L'Jarius Sneed this offseason, and he's really the biggest loss the Kansas City Chiefs had. If the Kansas City Chiefs can replace L'Jarius Sneed, the odds of them three-peating for Super Bowl champions as Super Bowl champions goes up exponentially. Well, guys, if there's one thing Brett Veach loves to do, it's acquire CB's cornerbacks. And the roster itself from Chiefs.com lists four defensive backs, four players listed as defensive backs. Well, I'm not making a separate defensive backs video. I'm not making a safety video, a cornerback video, and a defensive backs video, so I've done my best to break those four players apart into the safety and cornerback videos, figuring out who is a safety and who is a cornerback. By the way, in the process of doing that, I learned of a Kansas City Chief. Did you know the Kansas City Chiefs at some point acquired another cornerback named DJ Miller out of Kent State? I did not. I had no idea that he was a Kansas City Chief. His name surprised me doing the rundown on the roster for this position. So Brett Veach absolutely loves, acquiring cornerbacks so much, he was willing to bring one in and just not tell anyone. So there are 11 not listed cornerbacks. Again, I broke apart the defensive backs. There are 11 guys on this roster that I think are cornerbacks, maybe 12, because I'm not sure Najee Johnson is a safety. There are 11 players to be talked about in this video. And this is interesting. 11 guys, right? 11 players. Jalen Watson and Keith Traylor are the old men of the group. Yes, that Jalen Watson. Jalen Watson, who finds himself 25 years old. Keith Traylor, who finds himself 25 years old. Those two guys are the grandpas in the cornerback room. Everyone else is under 25 years old. No one of those 11 players, none of them are under 5'10". The NFL is littered with cornerbacks who are 5'9". There's one on many of the rosters across the league. Those are really fast guys normally. The Chiefs have no one under 5'10", with the exception of Echo Boydo, who is 177 pounds. None of these 11 players are under 185 pounds. So the Chiefs are doing their best. Now, the speeds on these guys is all over the place. There's a couple 4.3 guys. There's a couple 4.6 guys. So Christian Roland Wallace out of USC, the UDFA, I believe may have a future at safety, but he is listed currently at cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the speed does not seem to really be the deciding factor for cornerbacks in Kansas City. It seems to be height, it seems to be weight, and it seems to be age. If you are over 25, Brett Veach wants nothing to do with you. Call him Leonardo DiCaprio. This is an extensive group of players, so let's get into it. Obviously, Trent McDuffie will ascend to the lead dog position in this cornerback room. He had an outstanding season last year, playing 977 snaps through 16 games. Of course, he did not play the final week of the regular season. Now get this, last year, 2023, 7 pass deflections, 5 forced fumbles, 3 sacks, 80 tackles, 9 QB hits. He allowed just a 65.8% completion rating and had a rating when targeted of 94.4. Not the greatest number there, but still, playing 900 snaps in the NFL, you're going to get picked on sometimes. 977 snaps, nearly 1,000 snaps, and he gave up just 50 completions. And guys, maybe just as impressive, defensive average depth of target of 6.9 yards. He was a cornerback with a depth of target of 6.9 yards. Last season, I think that Trent McDuffie really proved the fact that, yes, he is going to be a standout player for the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's really not my call because Trent McDuffie ended up being the AP slot all-pro cornerback. Now, I hate to get too far ahead of ourselves, but one of the things that is going to be interesting to watch with Trent McDuffie going forward, he is currently 23 years old. He has 2 Super Bowl rings. He has 1 All-Pro. Guys, there's not a whole lot of cornerbacks with that type of resume at the end of a career. So depending on what Trent McDuffie does moving forward, depending on how many rings he actually collects, depending on how many All-Pros he gets voted, depending on how many Pro Bowls he ends up making, he could absolutely be, he's got the start of a Hall of Fame career right here, which is absolutely wild to say, considering the guy is 23 years old, he's been in the league 2 years, he has never... He doesn't have the resume that Patrick Mahomes had after 2 years, despite Mahomes having not having a ring after 2 years, but his first year starting was a 5,000-yard season. For Mahomes, that trajectory was immediately visible. Trent McDuffie is on a similar type trajectory. Yes, it is early yet, but that is one of the things that we get to watch here in Kansas City. He is entering his 3rd of 5 seasons that he will have on his Chiefs rookie contract, as he was a first-round pick. Now, number 2 here, I have Jaylen Watson. I believe the big playability is just too much with Jaylen Watson to put him any further down the depth chart there. 6'2", 197 pounds, runs a 4.49 40. And he's already won a couple games basically by himself. Obviously, there were 53 other guys, 48 guys dressed out that day, but Jaylen Watson really took the reins on those games and ended up winning them. And yes, I am realizing now, looking at this depth chart, that I did misspell it. It is Jaylen. I did not foresee his ascendance as a pass rusher last season. 7 blitzes and 2 sacks. He played only 440 snaps last year, a very big step down from the 605 snaps that he played as a rookie. He appeared in 16 games but started only 2 of them versus 6 starts in his rookie season. So I am going out on a limb by projecting him as the number 2 cornerback here. He is not on that type of trajectory. Joshua Williams is on a little bit of a better trajectory than is Jaylen Watson. But I think that the talent is there with Jaylen Watson, and I think that so last season there was basically absolutely no chance that anyone besides L'Jarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie would find themselves in one of those top 2 slots. I think the motivating factor here between Jaylen Watson and Joshua Williams, one of these guys is going to outwork the other this off season, and we have every reason to believe that they're going to have to, right? Brett Veach has made no intimations about getting a veteran free agent this offseason, though if you were to put money down on it. If the Kansas City Chiefs are going to spend some amount of the $15-ish million that they currently have open in their cap space, cornerback's a fairly safe bet, right? Cornerback, defensive tackle, wide receiver, those are the three positions that could end up being addressed with that final bit of money on the salary cap. Jalen Watson had a rating when targeted last year of 103.6, which is a step down from the 103.9 he gave up as a rookie, but he did give up a completion percentage of just 56.3, being targeted 48 times and giving up 27 completions. And then we have Joshua Williams, who played 437 snaps as a rookie, down to 321 last season. I said he was on a more promising trajectory than was Jalen Watson. He had a 104.9 rating when targeted his rookie season. He had an 82.7 rating when targeted last year. He gave up a 56% completion percentage as a rookie. He gave up a 44.8 completion percentage last year. He did drop from 17 games of appearance as a rookie to 16 in his sophomore campaign. His starts dropped from 4 to 2. Basically, a lot of this has to do with the fact that Trent McDuffie went from 682 snaps as a rookie all the way up to 977 in his second year. He was available for, he would have been available for 17 games, but he was available for 16 games after being available only 11 as a rookie. Plus the fact that the Chiefs' defense played 1,148 snaps in the 2022 season. They played 60 fewer snaps, 1,088, during the 2023 season. So fewer snaps were available because of Trent McDuffie. Fewer snaps were available because the Kansas City Chiefs were on the field less as a defensive unit last year. It is completely possible that if no other cornerback is acquired by the Kansas City Chiefs, that Joshua Williams ends up being the second starting cornerback next to Trent McDuffie. This would still leave Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, and Trent McDuffie on the field all at the same time for a majority of the plays. Trent McDuffie is going to be predominantly a slot corner. I think that there is a chance that he ends up playing a little bit more on the outside. But I really don't know if that's in the plans. When you look at the fact that Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson are 6'3" and 6'2" respectively, both of those guys nearing 200 pounds, over 190. Now, certainly neither of them have proven to be L'Jarius Sneed to this point in their career. But L'Jarius Sneed's rookie season, he only played 410 snaps. It wasn't until his sophomore season that he really started becoming L'Jarius Sneed with 918 snaps played. He gave up a 68.8% completions, and he surrendered a 91.9 rating in his second year, and then in L'Jarius Sneed's third year, he finally went over the 1,000 snap mark with 1,107 snaps. So if one of these guys were to emerge as a legitimate second cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, it would only be about a season behind the curve that L'Jarius Sneed was on. Then we have Nick Jones, who appeared in only 9 games, playing only 67 snaps of defense, 111 snaps of special teams. Didn't do a whole lot as a rookie, just 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 quarterback hit. He was targeted twice and gave up 2 receptions. That is a 100% completion rating, and he gave up a 102.1 rating when targeted. That said, the Kansas City Chiefs really seemed to like the 7th round pick out of Ball State. He was spoken highly of all last season, and he even got onto the field for a single play in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills. That might seem like a small thing, and indeed it is a small thing. 1 single snap during a 4-game playoff run. But that Buffalo game was pretty close. It was, one of the closest of the playoffs. And the former 250th overall pick was trusted to be on the field at least once. Now, during the regular season, so here's another reason that is a big deal. I messed up that transition. Another reason that is a big deal is that all 67 reps of his playing time during the regular season came in the Week 18 win over the Chargers. So he was not on the field at all during the first 17 weeks of the season, and then he ends up getting a rep during the divisional round of the playoffs. Now, last season, by snap counts, we had L'Jarius Sneed with 991, Trent McDuffie with 977, then we had Jalen Watson with 440, and fourth was Joshua Williams with 321. So the fourth place snap-getting cornerback in this defense could probably count on around 300 snaps of defense, and that is probably what you would be looking at for Nick Jones here as the fourth corner. That's an average of about 18 snaps per game. Very different than having all 67 of your rookie season snaps happening in a throwaway game the final week of the regular season. Is Nick Jones up to that challenge? That much is yet to be seen, but again, the franchise seems to like him very much. And if we are allowed to learn anything as Kansas City Chiefs fans about rookies who get their only playing time of their rookie season in the final week of the season, well, that means that Nick Jones is on his way to a Hall of Fame career. And then we have Kelvin Joseph, who is a reclamation project for this defense, a reclamation project for Brett Veach and Steve Spagnuolo. He is a former second-round pick by the Dallas Cowboys, 44th overall. Obviously, you see the tools on the screen, 6'1", 195, a 4.34 40. There's some stuff that he's capable of, right? So if the Kansas City Chiefs can unlock the enigma that is Kelvin Joseph, he's still only 24 years old. He has not played a ton in his NFL career. He played 164 snaps in 2021 as a rookie. He played 166 snaps in 2022. His second year, the Cowboys then moved on from him. Last season, he played 21 snaps for the Miami Dolphins. He was a Seattle Seahawk for a while and did not play any regular defensive snaps, but played some special teams plays. He is a player that definitely has potential. He has good speed. He's a fairly aggressive cornerback. In fact, that's something that got him into trouble sometimes in Dallas. Unfortunately, he does not always seem to show that 4.34 speed, and sometimes he just doesn't look like he's really interested in playing football all that much. Being in Kansas City will certainly pull out the football fanatic in him if there is one to be found. He's going to have the opportunity to win Super Bowls, so if that is any motivating factor for him, this is the place to find it. He signed a deal with the Chiefs of 1 year, $1.055 million, so it is possible that it is the Chiefs' prerogative to try to get something out of Kelvin Joseph. It is possible it is the Chiefs' prerogative to see if they can just unlock Kelvin Joseph. That has been something Brett Veach has done time and time again in his time here in Kansas City as the general manager, finding guys that have tools and washed out someplace else. Unfortunately, we don't really know how many tools Kelvin Joseph actually has because the 40-yard dash was the only testing that he did. So it's possible he does not have... I don't know if we've really seen this on the field. I don't know if we've seen anything to really corroborate whether or not what I'm about to say is true, but it's possible that he elected not to do anything else because he just doesn't have the explosion or the movement skills to do well in those drills. I do think that we have seen reason to doubt his explosiveness as an athlete. He only had a 35-inch vertical, and when you're looking at a guy that is 6'1", 192 pounds, and ends up running a 4.34 40, usually you're looking at a guy who has a vertical that is closer to 40. And looking at Kelvin Joseph, he was a little bit overdrafted by everyone's account. He was probably going to be a third-round type guy. I think it took the Dallas Cowboys to end up drafting him at 44 overall, so I don't think that he was anywhere near that as a consensus prospect in the draft. Still, a very good signing for, hey, kick the tires, see what you can get out of a guy. The Chiefs are good at getting the most out of a lot of players, and if they can get something out of Kelvin Joseph that it is there but is yet to be tapped, then it could be a good season for him. Next is Kamal Hadden, and if you want my full thoughts on Kamal Hadden, there is a full-length video in the 2024 Draft Picks playlist here on the channel for the player, for Kamal Hadden. It is a selection that I did not really understand at the time. The measurables don't really add up for Hadden. He is 6'1", he is 196 pounds. His arms are a little short at 30 7/8 inches. He does play football very well. I'm not going to go and say that he does not. So the reason he would have fallen to that place in the draft is not for his performance on the field, but because of the measurables that he ended up putting up. Last season, the Kansas City Chiefs took 5 corners into the season, which would mean that on this, if the depth chart ends up as I have it put here, after Kelvin Joseph, everyone would be cut and would end up either on the practice squad or they would not pass through waivers. Kamal Hadden, I think, would probably pass through waivers unless it is that he puts up something ultra dynamic on tape in the preseason. He was a 6th round draft pick, so no one else wanted him bad enough to snatch him before the 6th round. It is possible that other teams look at this and decide, well, we're going to screw with the Kansas City Chiefs and try to get any of their draft picks off of their team, if possible, just on the off chance that he is better than someone they have on their roster. These sort of things are going to start happening more and more to the Kansas City Chiefs, the more and more success they have, and the more and more success they have with players drafted by Brett Veach, and the more success that Brett Veach has in later rounds with players that he's not able to carry onto the roster. Speaking of, Ekow Boye-Doe, out of K-State, 6 foot tall, 177 pounds, ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. One would hope that Ekow Boye-Doe spent his rookie season on the practice squad, gaining at least a few pounds, maybe get him over the 180 mark, but this is a player that might end up like Khalef Haylassi last season, who really shone out in the preseason, was cut and attempted to pass through waivers and did not get through waivers. I was under the impression that we might have lost both Khalef Haylassi and Ekow Boye-Doe once they were both cut. Ekow Boye-Doe passed through waivers and ended up a Kansas City Chief. It is possible that Ekow Boye-Doe ends up making the roster this year. I just don't know what that looks like. I think that there is talent in Ekow Boye-Doe. I think that he could be an NFL player. I think this might be one of the players that the Kansas City Chiefs attempt to shine up during their 3 preseason games and try to get something out of in the way that they got something out of Ihmir Smith-Marsette last season. Keith Taylor may be a safety. It may be that he is better suited for safety. It may be that his better ability to make the roster is at safety. He is a listed defensive back. He played 17 games with 3 starts for the Panthers in 2021. He played 17 games with 2 starts for the Panthers in 2022. In his rookie season, he had 450 snaps of defense, 220 snaps of special teams. In 2022, he saw 377 snaps of defense, 170 snaps of special teams. It may be that Keith Taylor is the new Deon Bush. a bottom-of-the-roster special teams kind of guy who ends up sticking around and having a very long career in the NFL because he's not an embarrassing athlete. You can put him out there on your defense and not get absolutely trounced, but his real value may come to the Kansas City Chiefs on special teams. And guys, I in my opinion, Keith Taylor is a real NFL player. Right? It is not that he just happened to have played 390 snaps of special teams and 820 snaps of defense in the NFL because he was on the Panthers. I think that you don't just kind of accident your way into 5 starts in the NFL, 34 appearances through 2 seasons. I think that he is a legitimate NFL talent. I don't know what to do with him on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's possible that he could be the 5th cornerback, right? I have him here as the 8th cornerback. It's possible that he could be one of the final safeties on the roster. It's possible that he's the new Deion Bush and you're not cutting him because he's going to be a special teams ace for you. This is all possible. He signed a 1-year, $985,000 deal, so I just don't know what to do with him at this point. I don't know that he's necessarily more promising than Echo Boydo. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Kamal Hadden for a reason. I think that Kelvin Joseph is a better overall athlete. I just don't know what to do with Keith Taylor. Again, if you can shine him up in the preseason and get a 7th-round draft pick out of him because he is a legitimate NFL talent and there are going to be teams in the NFL who have a guy at the end of their roster that is not a legitimate NFL talent, then, hey, you do that. Miles Battle is the next player that I have here. Miles Battle is a guy that I have an entire video of, or an entire video for, on the channel in the 2024 NFL Draft Picks playlist here. This is my shining star on, so between him and Fabian Levette, those are the 2 UDFA that I think have the best chances to have a long NFL career. Miles Battle at 6'3", 196 pounds, a 4.37 40-yard dash. He's an aggressive guy. He can be a hands-on guy. I think that this Miles Battle, if you have the correct coach and you are able to spend some time with him, is a guy that is absolutely going to be an NFL player at some point in time. In my opinion, the biggest question mark with him in the offseason, in the preseason, is what do you do with him? Do you take the chance at shining him up in these preseason games the way that Khalef Haylassi was shined up in the preseason games? Because I don't think there's any way he really makes the opening day 53. I think that this is a practice squad type of project. Do you take the chance of putting him on film at all? You know other teams are going to have scouts at your training camp as well. I think that this is a guy who could very easily be plucked off of waivers, and the Kansas City Chiefs never get the chance to really foster and develop him on their practice squad. But with all the numbers I've seen from Miles Battle, I think that he's going to be an NFL player if he does end up getting that coaching. Now here, DJ Miller, a guy that I had no idea was a Kansas City Chief until I went to make this video. I have done a little bit of work on him. I don't think he's an NFL talent as a rookie. He is a UDFA out of Kent State. I don't think he makes the roster this year, but I do think he is a very fluid mover. A 4.54 40-yard dash isn't exactly what you want to see, but he looks loose in the hips. He's a guy that has change of direction skill. He's a guy that gets feisty with the ball in the air. Again, he's the only cornerback on the roster that is below 5'10", or below 5'11". And he is one of 2 corners on the roster that is below 189 pounds. And, maybe he doesn't have it. Maybe he's not an NFL talent, but he definitely has the movement skills of an NFL talent. Then we have, last for me, is Christian Roland Wallace, a guy that might be a safety. He's got safety-type speed at 4.64. A lot of places had him as a draftable player. I don't know that I was that high on him out of USC, but at 5'11", 202 pounds, you've got to really... Probably you want to be faster than 4.64 at corner in the NFL, period. But at 5'11", probably you're going to want to definitely be... You're going to want to be faster than 4.64. Maybe he was injured. Maybe he had turf toe. Maybe, all these maybes. But even when I put the tape on and I watch Christian Roland Wallace play football, I'm not real impressed. Now maybe he was playing within the confines of his position, within the confines of his defense, within the confines of what his coaches have told him. In my opinion, if he has a future in the NFL, it is as a safety, not as a cornerback, and I don't know that future in the NFL would start with him as a rookie. So that's it, guys. Those are the 11 men listed at corner. Well, some of them listed at defensive back, but that I think are corners for this Kansas City Chiefs team. 11 guys. Guys, currently the Kansas City Chiefs are 12% cornerback by volume. So this may sound ridiculous because there are so many players, but Brett Veach has an eye for talent in the defensive backfield. That much has to be acknowledged. 11 guys that, in my opinion, have a future in the NFL. 11 guys that I think from this point forward will have at least 1 foot at some point on the field for a franchise in the NFL at defensive back. I think a couple of them end up transitioning to safety rather than cornerback, but this is 11 guys who might legitimately be NFL talents. Brett Veach has found them every way that you can. You can draft them. You can sign them. You can trade for them. You can pick them up as UDFA. If Brett Veach could find a way to manifest a cornerback on some level with blood magic, I'm sure he would do it. So anyway, that's all I have for this episode of the cornerbacks on the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the final episode in this series, so if you were interested in my thoughts on the other position groups, those videos already exist. That's all I have for today. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. So hit the subscribe button to stick around for more. And as always, I hope to have you back next time.